Thank you for joining me today for my presentation on how to implement digital citizenship at Maine Virtual Academy. According to Bearden, digital citizenship can be defined as the norms of appropriate, responsible behavior with regard to technology use. This can look different for each teacher and each classroom. As educators, it is important to be a good example of a digital citizen. We need to be mindful of our digital footprints. Students and families can and will Google us. A good question to keep in mind is, what would they find if they Googled you? Would it help or hurt you as an educator? Teaching digital citizenship at Maine Virtual Academy is important for the parents and community so that they are more knowledgeable and that they can reflect good digital citizenship in their homes. Parents need to be aware of the positive and negative aspects of technology. Oftentimes, they only focus on the negative. As teachers, we need to let parents know that there is a lot of educational tools and applications that students can access online that are positive and can help enrich their educational opportunities. Digital citizenship is important for students to learn so that they know what can keep them safe and so they know what is and is not okay to share online. We live in a world of oversharing. Students need to know the effect that what they do, what they access, what they post online can affect them and their peers. The norms and rules for online behavior in my classroom are be polite, be respectful, allow others to make mistakes, and be considerate in chat. It is hard to read feelings or emotions into the written word. Keep this in mind when chatting or when reading chat. I often am telling my students this. It is important to remind students of these norms and to show these same behaviors when I'm interacting with my students. If I want students to respect each other, I need to treat them with respect as well. My classroom expectations are to have fun, to learn, to interact with your peers and your teacher, to show your knowledge, and to master skills in chemistry. This slide came directly from my chemistry class that I use currently for my spring semester chemistry course. My classroom expectations are a collaborative effort between my students and myself. The first class of the semester, we spend time talking about what we expect from each other, what the students expect from their peers and from me, and then what I expect from them. The students write their ideas on the whiteboard within our Blackboard session. We then vote on the top 5 expectations. Each class, we go over the expectations. As the semester goes on, we have to go over them in less and less detail as students are starting to self-regulate not only themselves, but each other. If another student starts to get off topic in chat, you'll often have a student that will be like, hey, remember, we need to keep it science related. If someone uses language that is inappropriate for my classroom, they will remind them of the correct language usage for my class. And I'm not talking about necessarily foul language or curse words, but just words that I find inappropriate for school, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. And we have this whole norms that we have set up and expectations that I gently remind them about when they cross that line. I'm like, remember, this is what we agreed upon. I will be introducing digital citizenship curriculum at Maine Virtual Academy starting in the fall of 2020. I am working to redesign the advisory curriculum offered at Maine Virtual Academy, and the 10th grade's advisory focus is digital citizenship. As part of the redesign, every teacher will take a digital citizenship professional development. The focus of the professional development will be how to incorporate digital citizenship into every core subject. There are technical considerations when introducing digital citizenship. What software do your students have access to? What restrictions do parents or families put on the students? At Maine Virtual Academy, we have a lot of families that do not allow their students to share any personal information online. They also do not allow their students to access any educational tool that requires them to sign up with their personal information. What technical abilities do your students have? The misconception of teachers at an online school is that every student will have the same technical abilities because they're schooling online. Some of your students may struggle with simple technical apps like Word or Excel. We need to be able to help them work through those issues, as well as take that into consideration when we're thinking about digital citizenship at our school. There are ethical considerations when teaching digital citizenship as well. What language is or is not allowed? What do you consider school appropriate language? And how do you define what is school appropriate at each age level? In my classes, I do not like students to use the word sucks. There is not necessarily anything wrong with this word, but I do not think that it should be used in a school setting. So we decided at the beginning of the school year to replace the word sucks with cucumbers. So I teach juniors and seniors, and I often allow them to share images or memes that are related to science in class. I always preface this with what is school appropriate. But again, what does this mean? I explained this at the beginning of the semester. The images cannot contain foul language, pornographic or suggestive images, or phrases. And we talk about this throughout the school year. Each time they are given that opportunity, if somebody crosses that line and they share something that's a little bit iffy, we talk about why it may or may not be school appropriate and what they could have chosen instead. Another area of ethical consideration is how students behave within my classroom. Students at the beginning of the year tend to make comments about other students' spelling in chat. Although this may seem innocent, it can be bullying. I explain to students that their written words can have an impact. We discuss bullying and how we all make mistakes, and we don't want to make fun of those mistakes. A student may truly struggle with simple, what we consider a simple spelling, but it's truly hard for them, and that can make them feel bad. And this often leads me to saying one of my favorite science quotes, which is by an unknown author. In this science class, mistakes are expected, inspected, and respected because it's a sign of learning. I love this quote. I use it often. It's one of my favorite things about science is that you're allowed to make mistakes. It's just a matter of what you do with those mistakes. And that's one of the ethical things that we have to consider when we're talking about digital citizenship. There's also some legal considerations. So when you're asking minors to sign up for educational apps or websites, are we getting parental consent? COPA requires that we receive signed parental consent before having a student create an account for an online application. We also need to be aware of what our students are doing online. Are they involved in risky behaviors like cyberbullying, self-harm, underage sexual activity, or are they talking about self-harm? Even if they're not engaging in the activity, are they talking about it? This is a fine line to walk. We want to maintain the trust of our students, but we are required mandated reporters, and we need to talk to our students about these topics. And if they bring something to us, we have to bring it forward. That is our jobs. But we also want to make them aware that these are some topics that they shouldn't be discussing online. These are these activities that they should not be engaging in. There's also, along with the dangerous behaviors that students can be engaging in online, they can also be engaging in illegal behaviors, such as plagiarizing, hacking, or cyberbullying. We need to teach our students how to properly cite the works of others and what it means to plagiarize. I had a student during the fall semester who plagiarized a complete lab report, word for word. I had to follow school policy and notify the learning coach, but I approached it as a teachable moment. I wanted the students to learn that yes, plagiarizing is wrong, but it's also important that they learn this lesson in a supportive learning environment. I wanted them to know that I was concerned that maybe they didn't understand the material. Maybe that's why they chose to plagiarize. I also wanted them to realize if they went to college and tried to plagiarize, they could be suspended from college. They could lose out on all that money that they invested. So it was more of a teachable moment. Yes, it had an impact on their grade as it had to per school policy, but it was more of a teachable moment for them. It's also incredible how young students are and their ability to hack. But they need to know that there's consequences to that as well. Cyberbullying is another difficult topic. Within our digital citizen curriculum, we will be using the Common Sense Education curriculum that's provided online. We'll be also watching some clips from the movie Cyberbully. This movie shows how sharing one inappropriate picture with one person who then shares it with the whole school can have a detrimental effect on all parties involved. There's also some social emotional considerations when teaching digital citizenship. Students need to practice the digital citizenship skills that we are teaching them. I would like to introduce a school-based network like Facebook, but it's confined within the school that allows students to practice their digital skills. This would allow teachers to turn their mistakes into that teaching moment. Some schools have the philosophy and the policy to just block everything, and that's how they choose to safeguard their students. This is not the policy at Maine Virtual Academy, and I wouldn't want to change that policy. It's really hard to expect students to know everything right away. We need to support them and guide them in how to be a good digital citizen. And oftentimes that means making mistakes along the way. But as long as we are there to guide them and show them maybe we should have done it this way instead of taking such a negative attack. Infractions will occur. It's just part of the learning process. As teachers, our job is to model good behavior for our students. We need to follow our school's data policy, and we need to build that culture of trust and transparency. In my classroom, students have come to self-regulate each other once the norms are set. The students each reach out to each other and remind them of the norms and what's expected. I even have a student who, if he starts getting too chatty, he'll be like, "Hey, Mrs. O'Grady, can you turn off my chat for me because I can't regulate for myself?" They have now learned throughout the year, throughout each semester, what's expected, and they want to learn. So they're creating that environment of learning within themselves. If infractions continue, we need to, as teachers, not only model the behavior for our students, but we need to address the situation with the student. But don't just come down with an authoritative, you did wrong, this is your punishment, but rather explain how they could have handled that situation differently. It's teaching. That's what we're all about. That's what our environment is. We're educators. We need to teach them how they could have done it differently or better next time. Unfortunately, we will still have those students who continue to engage in that negative behavior. And this is when a discussion with the student support system is necessary, and this often involves a member of the administration as well. But our ultimate goal is to teach the student why the behavior is hurtful and how they can learn from the situation. Giving the student examples and resources on how to handle the situation differently the next time will help to build their digital citizenship. All of this is going to be incorporated into Maine Virtual Academy's new curriculum that I will be rolling out in the fall. It's something that I'm working on throughout the summer, and all of our students will start being introduced in each of their classes to how to be a good digital citizenship, from finding resources online to going through the digital citizenship curriculum that is found on Common Sense Education to applying it in hopefully their family life and their community, having presentations done so that they can share that with their family to try to help promote good digital citizenship across the whole framework.